From the dawn of human reason, one question has echoed across the ages. Is there a God? From Plato's divine forms to Nietzsche's declaration that God is dead. Philosophy has been the great theater where this question is debated. But how have the greatest thinkers in history actually understood God? In this video, we'll explore how God appears, or disappears, across the great schools of philosophy. From ancient metaphysics to existential despair. From reason to revelation. Classical building Part 1. Ancient philosophy, the divine ground of reality. Let's begin in ancient Greece, where philosophy was born. Plato, circa 427 to 347 BC. For Plato, God is not a bearded old man in the clouds. God is the form of the good, the highest and most perfect reality. Just as the sun illuminates all things, the form of the good illuminates all truth and meaning. He writes in the Republic, "In the world of knowledge, the idea of the good appears last of all, and is the cause of all that is right and beautiful." Plato's God is not personal, but transcendent, not a creator, but the ultimate ideal. God is reason itself. Aristotle, 384–322 BC. Aristotle redefines the divine again. In his Metaphysics, he posits the idea of the unmoved mover, a perfect, eternal being who causes all motion without itself being moved. This God thinks only of itself. In perfect self-contemplation, a mind thinking of the highest thing, which is, of course, itself. God equals pure actuality, no potential, no change, not involved in our lives, but still necessary for everything to exist. So early on, we see right finger God as ideal form, Plato. Right finger God as unmoved mind, Aristotle. God is the foundation, not a friend. Latin Cross Part 2. Medieval philosophy, faith meets reason. Now we move into the medieval era, where philosophy and theology collide. In Christian, Islamic, and Jewish thought, God becomes personal, loving, and still rational. Augustine of Hippo, 354–430 AD. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. Augustine argued that God is the eternal source of truth, beauty, and love. He sees God as both beyond reason and yet the reason why reason exists. Anselm of Canterbury, 1033–1109. Creator of the ontological argument. God is that than which nothing greater can be conceived. If you can conceive of such a being, it must exist, because existing in reality is greater than existing only in the mind. Controversial? Yes, but revolutionary. Thomas Aquinas, 1225–1274. Aquinas tried to reconcile faith and reason in his masterpiece Summa Theologiae. His 5 ways to prove God's existence. Argument from motion. Argument from causation. Argument from contingency. Argument from degrees of perfection. Argument from design. Each points to a necessary being, God, as the ultimate cause. For Aquinas, God is eternal, omnipotent, omniscient, perfect love, necessary for everything else to exist. He says, faith builds on reason. It does not destroy it. Light Bulb Part 3. Enlightenment Philosophy. Reason questions God. 10 o'clock to 1600. As we enter the age of reason, skepticism grows. Descartes, 1596–1650. He famously said, "I think, therefore I am. Cogito ergo sum." But how do we trust our thoughts? Descartes appeals to God as the guarantee of truth. God is not a deceiver. Only a perfect God can ensure our ideas are valid. God becomes the foundation of epistemology. Spinoza, 1632–1677. He redefined God entirely. To Spinoza, God equals nature. He is the father of pantheism. God is not a person. God is the totality of the universe. Everything is in God, and God is in everything. This God doesn't judge or intervene. It simply is. Pascal, 1623–1662. A different voice in the Enlightenment. Blaise Pascal knew the limits of reason. He proposed Pascal's wager. If you believe in God and you're wrong, you lose little. If you don't believe and you're wrong, you lose everything. A practical bet, not a proof. God as the better risk. David Hume, 1711 to 1776. The ultimate skeptic. Hume doubted the classic arguments for God's existence. He believed miracles are violations of natural law. We cannot move from effect to cause with certainty. Arguments from design are based on weak analogies. A wise man proportions his belief to the evidence. Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804. Kant reshaped the debate. He argued we cannot prove God through reason. But, he said, morality demands we believe in God, free will, and the afterlife. What he called practical postulates. I had to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. Fire Part 4. Atheism and Existentialism, the Silence of God. By the 19th century, a storm was brewing. Science advanced, empires fell, faith cracked. Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844 to 1900. God is dead, and we have killed him. Nietzsche didn't mean God literally died, but that modern society had lost its belief. In the absence of God, he feared nihilism would spread. His answer? The Übermensch, a new kind of human who creates values from within. God was gone. Now man must be God. Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905 to 1980. For Sartre, existence precedes essence. There is no divine blueprint, no God, no ultimate meaning. Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. God's absence is terrifying, but also freeing. Albert Camus, 1913 to 1960. Camus didn't care to debate God's existence. Instead, he said life is absurd. We seek meaning in a silent universe. Like Sisyphus, we must roll the stone up the hill, knowing it will fall again. The struggle itself is enough to fill a man's heart. Brain Part 5. Contemporary philosophy. Can God still be reasonable? 2100-25, 00. In our modern world, the conversation continues. Alvin Plantinga. He developed the idea of warranted belief. Belief in God can be rational and justified even without empirical evidence. He revived the ontological argument with modal logic. Richard Swinburne uses probability theory to argue that God is the best explanation for the existence of the universe, order in nature, moral awareness, human consciousness. God is still a reasonable hypothesis. Richard Dawkins and New Atheists. In contrast, Dawkins and others argue that belief in God is delusion. In the God delusion, he claims God is unnecessary to explain the universe or morality. They accuse religion of being irrational, even dangerous. Process theology and open theism. In reaction to traditional theology, these schools say, God is not unchangeable, but responds to creation. God suffers with us, grows with us. The future is open, even for God. This is God not as a tyrant, but as a co-sufferer, co-creator. Compass Part 6. Comparative Table. How different philosophies see God. 25. 00-26 to 30. School. Thinker view of God. Plato form of the good, ideal, abstract. Aristotle unmoved mover, pure reason. Augustine loving, eternal, source of truth. Aquinas rational, necessary being. Descartes guarantor of thought. Spinoza God is nature, pantheism. Pascal faith through reasoned wager. Hume skeptical of all proofs. Kant morally necessary postulate. Nietzsche God is dead, create own values. Sartre no God, freedom and anxiety. Plantinga God belief is properly basic. Swinburne God is probable cause. God is not a theory, not just an idea, not a relic of ancient minds. God is the deepest question. The question that makes us human. That forces us to ask, why is there something rather than nothing? Am I alone in the universe? Is there meaning behind the silence? And perhaps the most honest response isn't a final answer, but a lifetime of seeking. If this made you think, subscribe for more deep dives into faith, reason, and philosophy. Leave a comment. Which philosopher's view of God resonates with you the most, and why? Thanks for watching. Keep asking questions.